This is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Gavin Plumb? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Gavin Plumb was born on February 25, 1987, and lived in Harlow, United Kingdom. This is 30 miles north of London. Starting at a young age, Gavin struggled with his body weight. By the age of 13, his weight was characterized as reaching the point of gross obesity. He developed physical and mental health problems, as well as difficulty with social skills. Gavin attempted to form romantic relationships, but often found himself in the friend zone. The vast majority of Gavin's time was spent online, and he rarely left his residence. He was active with the role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons and collected merchandise from the Ghostbusters movie franchise. On August 14, 2006, when Gavin was 19 years old, he approached a woman on a train and handed her a note indicating he had a firearm. The note also contained instructions she was to follow. She was to exit at the next stop, or he would shoot her and everyone else. Other passengers noticed that the woman was in distress, and Gavin exited the train. 2 days later, he approached another woman on a train and handed her a note indicating he was a police officer. The note directed her to exit at the next stop for a quick chat. The woman refused, and Gavin exited the train. He was arrested the next day. The police found that he had a fake gun and 3 pieces of rope in his possession. Ultimately, Gavin pleaded guilty to attempted kidnapping and received a suspended sentence. On December 11, 2008, when Gavin was 21 years old, he approached 2 16-year-old girls at a retail store where he worked. Threatening them with a box cutter, Gavin ordered them into a stockroom. He started to tape the hands of one girl behind her back. The other girl escaped. The police were notified, and Gavin was arrested. In 2009, he pleaded guilty to false imprisonment and received 32 months in prison. Despite having serious convictions on his record, Gavin found work as a security guard at the Greenway Business Center in Harlow. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On October 3, 2023, Gavin entered a chat room on a messaging app called Kik. The name of the chat room was Abduct Lovers. The group's 100 members were interested in kidnapping or murdering various people, like neighbors, celebrities, or former romantic partners. The personal profile picture Gavin used was an image of a woman named Holly Willoughby. She is a well-known British television presenter and model who had been on shows like This Morning and Dancing on Ice. Gavin posted 4 photographs of Holly to the group with the caption, quote, "The one in the public eye I want," unquote. He indicated that he knew that she did not have surveillance cameras at her home and did not have security. He also knew what time she woke up in the morning. Gavin was unaware that an undercover police officer from Minnesota was in the chat room. His username was David Nelson. His real identity has never been released, so I will refer to him as David. Over the next 30 hours, David exchanged over 300 private messages with Gavin. Here's what they talked about. David asked if he was looking for help. Gavin made it clear that he was interested in obtaining assistance. In order to get David to London, Gavin discussed possible flights. He also revealed possible dates for the home invasion, details about Holly's vehicle, and how he planned on using her vehicle during the crime. Gavin did not have a driver's license. David said that he did not have one either, so Gavin planned on recruiting a third person to drive the vehicle. Gavin shared a video of various restraints like handcuffs, ropes, and metal cable ties. He talked about obtaining chloroform and mentioned he intended on using knives in the attack. Gavin's plan was to kidnap Holly and conduct an assault of a sexual nature. When completed, he would cut her throat, wash her in bleach, and dump her in a lake. Gavin wanted David to participate in the actual murder. In order to gain practice with this type of crime, Gavin suggested his neighbor would be a good target, and even sent images of his neighbor to David. To establish his willingness to be dangerous, Gavin bragged about his prior convictions. David told Gavin that he would only spend the money to fly to London if Gavin was serious. Gavin responded, quote, "Definitely serious for me, anyway," unquote, and claimed he had been planning the crime for 2.5 years. In reality, his interest dated back to 2018, so about 5 years before this conversation with David. Appearing to be excited, Gavin said, "It's actually happening." He and David set a date of October 3, 2024, 1 year in the future. The pair established a secret code word, Holly, so they could verify their identities when communicating. As an undercover officer, David had talked to a lot of disturbing people, but he recognized that Gavin was particularly worrisome. He believed that Gavin posed an imminent threat to Holly Willoughby. David contacted the authorities in Britain, who raided Gavin's apartment the next day, October 4, 2023. During the raid, the police told Gavin that he was being placed under arrest for a plot to kidnap Holly Willoughby. As he was being arrested, Gavin said, quote, "I'm not going to lie, she's a fantasy of mine," unquote. In addition to the incriminating communication with David, investigators found additional evidence that did not look too good for Gavin. From December 2021 to June 2023, he communicated with a man named Mark from Ireland. Gavin indicated that he wanted to kidnap Holly Willoughby and conduct an assault of a sexual nature. He revealed a long list of horrifying details and made it clear he was serious. As far as a location where he would take Holly, Gavin talked about finding an abandoned property. Gavin complained that he had tried to recruit others to help him, but they were too frightened to move forward. On July 4, 2024, Gavin was convicted of 3 offenses, including soliciting murder. He received 3 terms of life in prison to be served concurrently, with a minimum term of 16 years. When calculating his time already served, Gavin must serve at least another 15 years and 85 days. He will be on probation for the rest of his life no matter how long he spends in prison, and he is never allowed to contact Holly Willoughby. The victim impact statement was not released in this case because Holly asked the court to keep it private. However, the judge did say that Gavin's criminal behavior had life-changing personal and professional consequences for Holly Willoughby. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Throughout his life, Gavin made a negative impression on many people. He was described as disgusting, simple, evil, sick, depraved, vile, pathetic, a hermit, and a revolting creature. One woman who dated him for 3 months in 2007 said that he stayed inside frequently and played video games like Call of Duty. One of his neighbors often heard Gavin in his backyard having unusual conversations. Despite an extremely low level of attractiveness and frequent rejections by women, Gavin did manage to have a few romantic relationships. Ultimately, they were not successful, which may have left him frustrated. Item number 2. The excessive consumption of food appeared to be a key component of Gavin's life. He was even featured in a 2018 BBC documentary about obesity. Among other items, Gavin was consuming about 2 liters of soda a day and weighed 35.5 stone. 1 stone is 14 pounds, so Gavin weighed 497 pounds. He had enough stones for his own rock quarry. Chest pain caused by obesity made his life miserable, and he didn't go outside very often. Despite his problems, Gavin was hopeful about the future. He said, quote, "I'm not going to give up. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to get where I need to," unquote. It appeared as though many of his hopes were pinned on gastric surgery. He said, quote, "This surgery is not only going to change my life, it's going to save my life," unquote. In a strange twist, Gavin's poor physical health is what led him to the chat room and his subsequent conversation with David. Gavin wanted to carry out the attack on his own, but realistically, he needed 1 or more men to help him. He simply wasn't capable of executing a physically rigorous plan of kidnapping and murder by himself. Item number 3. It seems clear that Gavin entertained dark and twisted fantasies for a long time. He was arrested for crimes against female victims in both 2006 and 2008. These crimes involved physical violence, so Gavin wasn't simply all talk. He was willing to attack as long as he was physically able to do so. In 2011, Gavin started searching for other people who were interested in kidnapping celebrities. It appears as though he started focusing on Holly in 2018, as I mentioned. Gavin downloaded millions of images from the internet. He had over 10,000 images of Holly, including some that were digitally manipulated to make it look as though she suffered from an absence of clothing. He made several preparations for the crime, including purchasing metal cable ties, a knife, and what he thought was chloroform. He had actually purchased nothing more than a mixture of ethanol and water, but the label on the bottle indicated chloroform. It was clear that Gavin gave a lot of thought to the elements of the attack. He was always heavy on the details. For example, while kidnapping Holly, he was going to select outfits from her home that he liked and take the clothing with him. Once at the abandoned property with Holly, he intended on forcing her to make a video saying that she came with him of her own volition. Furthermore, she would state that she was consenting to everything that he was going to do to her. Apparently, Gavin had a lot of faith in Holly's acting skills. He thought this video would be a get-out-of-jail-free card. Even though Gavin was obsessed with Holly, he had plans that extended beyond her kidnapping and murder. In a nightstand next to his bed, Gavin had a handwritten list of 136 female celebrities. He claimed that he had recruited other like-minded people to carry out additional attacks against celebrities. Item number 4. Some people have argued that, although Gavin's behavior was disturbing, it seems unlikely that he was an actual threat to Holly. Gavin conducted his research online and not in person. He never went to Holly's house, and he said he knew his plan was never going to happen. The court disagreed and declared Gavin to be a dangerous offender. I am compelled to agree with the court for a variety of reasons. For example, Gavin planned the attack on Holly for years. He researched her behavior, her location, and her schedule. Gavin purchased items to be used in the attack. His plan involved not only attacking Holly, but her husband and her children. After that, he planned on attacking other celebrities. Gavin had a history of violence and serious convictions. He was actively looking for people to help him only because he was physically disabled and could not carry out the plan on his own. Gavin repeatedly indicated he was serious and seemed excited when he believed he had found an accomplice. If Gavin had found an actual accomplice, I believe he would have moved forward with the attack. Item number 5. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Gavin was self-centered, impulsive, immature, socially awkward, irresponsible, exceptionally unattractive, repulsive, antisocial, hedonistic, cold, callous, sadistic, had a sense of entitlement, and was exceedingly creepy. His personality characteristics combined with his physical condition led to repeated rejections by women. In response, he developed fantasies of sexual domination. After being arrested and convicted twice in connection with poorly planned attacks, Gavin decided to take a different approach. He focused on one particular target, Holly Willoughby, and carefully planned an attack over the course of years. Gavin probably did recognize that his fantasy would never come true, but he was always willing to make it a reality and was sincere in his search for an accomplice. He realized that he was dead weight and he needed a heavy hitter for assistance. In one online discussion, Gavin indicated he really didn't care about risks or consequences. This is probably true. He reached a point where his drive to live out his fantasy took over. Now moving to my final thoughts. There is this sense that prison is the perfect place for Gavin Plumb. It is his destiny. Society is better off with him there, and he should never be released. As I mentioned, Gavin once said, "I'm going to do everything I possibly can to get where I need to." I suppose he was true to his word. Those are my thoughts on the case of Gavin Plumb. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comments section. They consistently generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.